Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, we warmly welcome His Excellency Lawrence Wong, Prime Minister of the Republic of Singapore, to Malaysia. We are indeed very honored by your presence here today, Your Excellency. We will begin the joint press conference today with remarks by the Prime Minister of Malaysia, followed by remarks by the Prime Minister of the Republic of Singapore.
Baik, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi dan salam sejahtera. Saya ucapkan selamat datang kepada rakan kita, Perdana Menteri Lawrence Wong, dan kebetulan Rachel, isterinya juga bersama dengan Azizah tengah hari ini. Dan ini satu penghormatan, satu lawatan pertama selaku Perdana Menteri. So may I, on behalf of the government, express my profound gratitude and thanks to the Prime Minister Lawrence Wong, who's been kind enough to spend time with me and discuss issues, both personal, family, and more importantly, bilateral relations in order to enhance further. And the strong bond is, of course, known from my association with then Prime Minister Sian Loong, who's been a great friend and been very supportive of the efforts to enhance relations and settle some of the outstanding issues. And now I'm very pleased that with Prime Minister Lawrence Wong, he seems to be as committed, and in this first meeting as Prime Minister, I'm deeply impressed by his candor and his willingness to be very frank, very open, and I think I look forward to very healthy and strong relations and bond, and to benefit both our countries. Of course, we did discuss all the issues, some outstanding, some ongoing, very well, the economic zone, the financial zone, the increased trade, phenomenal, and investment into Malaysia, and similarly our participation in probably a smaller way in Singapore. But also we did touch on the broad parameters to discuss issues of water, FIR, maritime borders, which I think can and should be resolved in the interest of the future relations and strengthening the bond of friendship between the two countries. But beyond that, enhances of relations, we did discuss about the probably possibility of Singapore considering my humble submission of sending teachers to teach English or some other subjects to many regions in this country. Let the young graduates make their own choice if they can, and I'm extremely pleased that Prime Minister Lawrence is prepared to positively say this. This is not something that we prepared through the officers. We want to just to prove that sometimes Prime Ministers can decide before the minister officers. So let me reiterate my profound appreciation in terms of bilateral, but we did touch on some of the need to work together in the ASEAN framework, because to Malaysia and Singapore, ASEAN is extremely important and strategic, and both of us seem to be committed to make sure that ASEAN continue to function more effectively and to focus on the new challenges of energy, digital, trade, and joint investments. So, my dear friend Lawrence Wong, welcome to Malaysia. And I'm telling you that the people do appreciate this and look forward to many, many, many good years together. Terima kasih.
Terima kasih. Prime Minister Dato Sri Anwar Ibrahim, thank you very much for those kind words and warm remarks. Thank you also for the gracious hospitality to me and my delegation in my introductory visit to Malaysia. PM Anwar called me the morning after I was sworn in as Prime Minister. He was the first foreign leader to do so. And in that phone conversation, he invited me to make an early introductory visit to Malaysia, and I readily agreed. Both PM Anwar and I have met on previous occasions, so we are familiar with each other. But I thought it was important for me to come in early to establish a good working rapport and relationship. And I think we have done so today over a lovely meal and durians for dessert. And I'm sure we will be able to work effectively together to take our bilateral ties forward. There will be continuity in terms of our overarching strategic approach in engaging one another, but also opportunities for new ideas to deepen our ties further, ideas like the one we discussed over lunch. I told PM Anwar that Singapore deeply values our strong and close bilateral relation, and we will continue to pursue win-win cooperation with Malaysia. Our two countries already cooperate substantively across almost every sector: health, education, culture, trade, investments, connectivity, and also in emerging areas like the digital economy and renewable energy. There are promising projects which we are pursuing together. In particular, I look forward to the Johor-Singapore Special Economic Zone and the Johor Bahru-Singapore Rapid Transit System link. Both will increase the cross-border flow of people, goods, and investments, and will bring our two countries closer together and ultimately benefit both Malaysians and Singaporeans. We all know that we are entering a world that is becoming more dangerous, more unpredictable, more troubled. And in this new environment, our two countries must redouble efforts to work closely together and work in a pragmatic fashion for positive outcomes for both sides. In fact, we are more similar than we are different. We are two countries with enduring ties of culture, kinship, and history. We are both committed to forging more inclusive societies based on good governance and social harmony. And while issues may arise from time to time, as is bound to happen between close friends and neighbors, PM Anwar and I are committed to tackling them constructively while keeping our overall relationship positive and forward-looking. And in this regard, we had some very candid and productive discussions on our outstanding bilateral issues, such as airspace, water, and maritime delimitation. The discussions are ongoing, and PM Anwar and I agreed that we will continue to provide the strategic direction for our officials to make progress on their discussions, and then eventually come together to take stock at the coming leaders' retreat. While the issues are complex and may take some time to resolve, we are fully committed to managing them in a way that will enable our overall bilateral relationship to continue to flourish. Next year, Malaysia will assume the chairmanship of ASEAN. Singapore is confident that under Malaysia and PM Anwar's leadership, ASEAN will develop further as a stronger and more integrated community and will deepen our relations with our external dialogue partners. So once again, let me thank my dear friend PM Anwar for inviting me to make an early visit to Malaysia, for your strong support for our bilateral ties. I very much look forward to returning to Malaysia later this year for our leaders' retreat and to continue working closely with you and your team to take our relations to even greater heights. Thank you very much. Terima kasih.
Thank you, Yang Amat Berhormat Prime Minister and His Excellency. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, I now wish to invite both Prime Ministers to take some questions from the members of the media. Can we please have the first question from the Singaporean side?
Good afternoon, Prime Ministers. Afifa from CNA. For Prime Minister Wong, this is your first visit here as Prime Minister. What are your key priorities for strengthening Singapore-Malaysia relations? And in the same vein, Dato' Sri, How do you think this bilateral relationship will evolve with PM Wong's new administration?
Shall I begin? For me, what's important at this beginning, having just taken over, it's not so much to talk about priorities in terms of projects or agenda items, but to focus on the human relationship and to build a good relationship with my counterpart, Prime Minister Anwar. Because trust is everything. When there is trust, especially between leaders, we can get many things done. And that's why I'm very glad that I had the chance. I thank once again Prime Minister Anwar for inviting me to have an early visit here, hosting me to a meal and having an opportunity to have a very candid conversation with him. And we were able to establish that strong rapport and trust with each other. And that will allow us to send a clear message to our ministers and officials that we want them to negotiate, discuss the outstanding issues in the right spirit. Do it in a way that will enable us, both sides, to achieve win-win outcomes. Even when there are differences amongst us, that's okay, but always focus on the larger picture and on the overall relationship. So with that attitude and mindset, I am confident, whether it is on outstanding issues, whether it's existing projects or even new projects, as long as both sides have that attitude and mindset, I'm very confident that we can take our relationship further and we can really bring our two countries closer together. Because the more we cooperate, the more we do things together, the more we will enlarge our economic space, and it will ultimately benefit both countries and both our peoples.
We have seen the last year also, continuing the work by previous leaders on the need to enhance this relationship and collaboration. But in the last year, it is phenomenal to my mind in terms of trade, investment, RTS, and economic zone, financial zone. And I think I see this in a pragmatic manner that Malaysia would, of course, immensely benefit by having Singapore as a great friend and neighbor, and similarly to the benefit of Singaporeans too. We consider it a very important strategic partner, and I've said it without any qualms. There are, of course, issues to be resolved, but it would be of great benefit if we could showcase not only to the region but to the world that we can be really good neighbors and through practical steps resolve some of these issues, but also seek new avenues of collaboration and cooperation, which transcends just economic and trade, but also culture and tourism and all related fields. That's why I say this first meeting as Prime Minister Lawrence, I am deeply touched and impressed. He was very frank, very friendly, and I think we can be great friends.
Thank you. Can we have the next question from the Malaysian side, please?
Good afternoon, Prime Ministers. My name is Boon from Bernama. Okay, I have a question for Prime Minister Wong. How would you describe the current state of Singapore and Malaysia relations, your approach to it, and what are the top priority going into the annual retreat this year? Will it include the high-speed rail? Thank you.
Thank you. I would say our bilateral ties are in very good shape and progressing very well, and there is potential for us to do even more together going forward. We are building, or I am building, on a very strong foundation by my predecessors. PM Anwar had a very good relationship with then PM Lee Hsien Loong, now Senior Minister, and I am building on that and continuing with that relationship at the leadership level. But we wanted to also extend beyond the leadership to government agencies, to our civil servants, to our ministers. And that's why we want to send the right message to all our agencies, continue to interact, continue to work together, discuss in the right spirit, and find ways to resolve outstanding issues, but importantly, identify new areas of cooperation. And these new opportunities extend beyond the government too. It extends beyond the civil service. It includes the private sector, it includes NGOs, it includes civil society, it includes our universities and our teachers. So whatever new ideas there are, we want to find ways in which we can really bring our two countries together. Because I believe there is a lot of potential for Malaysia and Singapore to provide the strong anchor for a more dynamic and competitive Southeast Asian region. Together, we can make this happen. On the retreat, on the upcoming leaders' retreat, we hope to take stock of the progress of the discussions that have been going on. There are work streams and mechanisms that the officials on both sides are discussing, and we hope to take stock and see good progress being made. And of course, along the way, there may be new ideas that come up. We are open to hearing from Malaysia if there are proposals from the high-speed rail as well. And whatever the new ideas are, we will keep an open mind and we will discuss it in the right spirit of taking our relationship forward.
Can we have the next question from the Singaporean side, please? Thank you.
Hello, Prime Ministers. I'm Yuan Si from the Straits Times in Singapore. Both of you mentioned the outstanding issues of water, airspace, and maritime boundaries. So I'm wondering, did you discuss any maybe strategic change in addressing these issues, such as a holistic package? And also, is there any timeline you have in mind? Thank you.
You asked timeline, they should have resolved it yesterday. But we understand the complexities and we appreciate the need to resolve this amicably, notwithstanding some minor differences. It should not deter us from exploring new avenues and working together. There's no question that water is quite established, that we need to sell water to Singapore. Similarly, FIR, there's no question that it is required for Changi. The issue is to get the nitty-gritty and get the details to be resolved. The faster it could be done, the better for these countries. Similarly, the maritime delimitation boundaries. And then, of course, to facilitate that economic zone and financial zone process. So I think if you ask me, I have assured Prime Minister Lawrence that I would certainly insist that our staff work fast, at a faster pace, and try to resolve where they can. If they can't, then bring it up to forward attention. And it would be wonderful, it would be marvelous if we could resolve it before the bilateral meeting towards the end of the year. I think if they can resolve tomorrow, next week, we'll get Prime Minister Lawrence to come. But then we may take some time, but it would be marvelous if we could really resolve. Because the issue is, to my mind, clear. We need to resolve it at one time. There's no way we can get out of it. It is something that we as good neighbors have to get this. And I am a bit ambitious. I want this to be to showcase to the region and to the world how good neighbors should behave and interact. So I look forward to that sort of a final amicable resolution.
Well, I told Prime Minister Anwar that I'll be happy to come anytime if it helps to accelerate the resolution of these outstanding issues. But there is a work stream, there are platforms following from the last leaders retreat, which the officials are now discussing. So it was a good opportunity for both of us today to touch base, take stock of what's outstanding, but also to give guidance to the officials to continue their discussions in a constructive manner. And do so in a way that also bears in mind the importance of the overall relationship. And whatever differences we may have on these issues should not affect or color how we treat the overall relationship, and certainly should not detract from the possibilities of pursuing new areas of cooperation. So that's the spirit which we have in thinking and addressing these issues, and we look forward to being able to, at least even if we can't resolve completely, see very good progress across all of them by the time we meet together at the upcoming Leaders Retreat.
And now, the final question from the Malaysian side.
Good afternoon. I'm Director Daudian from Ashlawani. Selamat datang kepada Prime Minister Lawrence Wong.
Thank you.
Assalamualaikum Datuk Seri. I have one question for Datuk Seri. With Malaysia chairing ASEAN in 2035, what are the discussion and focus to advance the agenda for regional cooperation? And maybe Mr. Lawrence can comment on ASEAN chairman by Malaysia. And also, one more regarding Johor and Singapore. How do you envision the greater Singapore-Johor region becoming a new economic hub in the region? And what initiatives do you foresee to enhance the economic integration? That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Why ask difficult questions? No, I have not assumed the chairmanship of ASEAN. And our tradition is, of course, to consult our friends and colleagues to secure some sort of an understanding what needs to be done. And I think I will have to certainly to wait for that. But meanwhile, we have reached somewhat of consensus on moving forward in terms of facing new challenges. Digital, as mentioned, energy transition or renewable energy, and collaboration that would transcend just trade and economy to make sure that we can cement ASEAN as really a cohesive force. I mean, that would be that. Of course, there's an outstanding issue to achieve the 5-point consensus in Myanmar. And I think that is the resolve for all ASEAN countries, that this must be a priority too. But this, we could do it together. It's not as simple, but then it would be great if we can get this engagement going with the clear undertaking with a 5-point consensus. On Singapore-Johor collaboration, of course, it's a federal government strong endorsement. The ideas come essentially from the federal government, both the finance and the economic zone and the RTS. And that's a priority. Johorians cannot complain because we have been giving this extra facility, not accorded even to my state, Penang. Or now Perak, I'm representing Perak. And we did discuss this. I mean, Prime Minister Lawrence is, of course, quite concerned about how we do proceed with RTS, and he mentioned also the economic zone. And we're just waiting to finalize this, and I would even drop into Singapore to meet the potential investors to encourage them, but we have to get the parameters and issues resolved. And from the initial briefing by Minister Rafizi and Tugu Zafrul, it seems that we're very, very close to a final sort of agreement.
Well, I am very excited about the potential for the Johor-Singapore Economic Zone. We know what it takes to have a good SEZ. I mean, you can see successful SEZs around the world. There are certain key ingredients that are needed to make a successful one. And Johor and Singapore has all the ingredients to make a very successful economic zone. And the projects we have, including the RTS, are major game changers, which can really tap on the complementarities between Malaysia and Johor and Singapore. Because in fact, our two economies, people harp a lot on the competition, but really, we are complementing one another, and the bigger competition is outside of this Singapore, Malaysia, and outside of the region. So if we can press forward with good master planning, clear and consistent policies around the SEZ, with the RTS coming alongside, I think it will unlock a lot of economic benefits for both sides, for both our peoples, and we can really realize the potential of this collaboration. What we are doing between Singapore, Malaysia, and between Johor, Singapore, is also in many ways what ASEAN ought to be doing to strengthen our economic integration as one community. So I'm very hopeful that Malaysia, Singapore can provide that strong anchor for a stronger and more integrated ASEAN community. I remember 20 years ago, we were talking about ASEAN. We said Asia is taking off. This will be the Asian century. There is China, there is India, and we were very worried ASEAN would be left behind. Well, 20 years have passed. Where are we now? It's a very different world. Geopolitical environment is different. China has certainly accelerated in the last 20 years. India is on the move very rapidly, a lot of momentum. ASEAN has made some progress. Yes, we have. So we shouldn't belittle that. But I think there is still a lot of scope for us to come together and work even more closely together. So Singapore will fully support Malaysia's chairmanship of ASEAN, and we hope to be able to work together to set an ambitious and forward-looking agenda for ASEAN for the next 10 to 20 years ahead.
Now, we have come to the end of the joint press conference. Once again, I wish to thank His Excellency Lawrence Wong and Yang Amat Berhormat Datuk Sri Anwar Ibrahim for your time today.
Thank you.